Hi, it's Sochi Grace and Brisa. Today's lesson is going to be about cylinder bore, cylinder stroke, and connecting rods and the crankshaft. So, yesterday and the day before that, I talked a lot about the cylinder head, the cylinder wall, and now we're going to learn also about engine displacement and how this relates to things also. So, let me draw a diagram here. So this one right here is, pretend you're looking at the cylinder from the top, so it's going to be moving like up and down, and you're looking at it from the top. Now the diameter of the circle of the cylinder, this is what we call the engine. This is the engine bore, and that is how wide the cylinder is around. Some engines have small cylinders like this, some have bigger circled cylinders, and it's advantageous in different ways. Now the stroke is how much it travels down and back up to its initial position. So if you want to be able to cram more air and more fuel into an engine, you're going to want a wider cylinder bore, and therefore there's more surface area for that air and fuel to explode and push it down. A lot of engines that rev really high into like 8,000 RPMs and things like that have really wide bores and really short strokes. This means that they go up and down really fast, but they're really wide, so you could still have that same amount of surface area to create that amount of horsepower with the ratios of fuel to air that you want. Now stroke, there's not a lot of engines with small cylinders but long stroke, because a lot of the engines that do have long strokes, they're diesel engines, so they still have fairly large cylinders. So this relates a lot to your engine RPM. You know, the little gauge that's not your speedometer that goes like that shows how fast your engine is going. Because if you have a longer stroke, you won't be able to rev as high, which is why a lot of semi-engines, diesel engines, and larger gas engines aren't able to rev as high, because they have longer strokes, so they can create more torque as opposed to more horsepower. We'll learn about horsepower versus torque sometime later. Let me put this marker up together. Medea, do you have a napkin that I could erase with? Is there a napkin? Oh, well, not that. Oh, we'll just use my hands today. Man, it's hot here. Turn on the air conditioning, please. Okay, so this gets into engine displacement. I've talked about displacement a little bit, so we're going to talk about this. This is stuff you kind of need to know. So, as engines rotate, the pistons go up and down, it draws in air. This is referred to as displacing air. And displacement is measured in volume, either in cubic inches if you're American, or liters if you're literally anybody else with a brain. So, cars, they have engines with multiple cylinders usually ranging from 4 to about 16 cylinders, and as each piston goes down, it pulls in air. The amount of air that an engine pulls in each time it goes down for its intake stroke, and each other piston goes down during that same engine rotation for the intake stroke, that amount of air is known as the displacement. So, for example, some larger engines today will pull in 5.7 liters to about 7 liters is about the practical limits of the size of engines. The largest displacement engine in a road legal car is 8 liters, which is about 600 cubic inches. I'm not that smart. And the lowest is about 2 liters, because if you're lower than 2 liters, you're probably like a race car revving really high. And having a larger displacement means you can make theoretically more horsepower, because you can pull in more air because your engine is larger, But large engines are usually very, very inefficient, but they do make their horsepower and torque at lower RPMs, which means that you hit your highest power and torques at a lower RPM, but you can't make as much because your engine can't rev as fast just because the pistons are so large in comparison to other ones. Now, smaller engines are usually more efficient because they're not used in like high performance applications, and in that way they could rev higher, but they don't necessarily have to. So because of that, they are usually more efficient, but they don't make as much power or torque. And I think that's all I got. Wow, this one only 5 minutes long. Oh, crankshafts and connecting rods. That's something I forgot to talk about. Okay, let me redraw this out. So the piston, it moves up and down, which is a fairly common thing that you guys know now. So let me draw out a cylinder, a piston, and another piston. So this is what a piston will theoretically look like within the cylinder. This is what it looks like if it's just on its own. You notice it's hollow here, this right here, and usually about right to there is known as the connecting rod. This lower part here connects the piston to the crankshaft, which is the main central axis that all the pistons rotate on. This little joint right here, it bends, so I'll draw it out real quick. Yeah.
God damn, that guy's hot.
What guy?
This guy on TikTok. Look. He's hot. Wow.
You're dumb.
I'm so tired. Miss Tiffany's like a beast. Like she was literally like, "Let's go, yep." She was like screaming. Oh my! Why are you recording? He's sending this to his friends.
Yeah.
Miss Tiffany, she was like hyping us
So
up.
this is a very bad drawing, but it'll go down. So the other thing is kind of rotating like that, I guess, kind of.
Why do you have to walk right behind me?
Google like an animation of a piston moving on a crankshaft, and that'll demonstrate it better than me. But that is how they work. So if you have a longer connecting rod, you have a longer stroke, which means you can pull in more air but not rev as high. And engines that rev higher and have larger displacements don't necessarily have the best efficiency.
They speed it up.
That is.
Shh. I'm trying to concentrate and not hitting this guy's truck. Oh my God. Let's Capri.
But you go backwards more. Go backwards more.
Go backwards more?
A lot more. Wait.
Well, I
get
just
all
don't
the way.
want to hit it. Look how.
Go all the way past it.
Am I close to it?
Yeah, kind of, but just go straight back. Go all the way straight back. All the way straight back.
Is it good driving?
All the way straight back. See there? Now you're
Oh,
good.
God damn, that was so scary.
Anyway, that's
Okay.
all I got, guys. Do Googling, ask me myself if you have questions. We're shaking.